Can you believe it? Could you believe it? The Giants actually beat the Dodgers. I was really freaked out after the Giants failed to complete the sweep Sunday in DC because I had felt, as I'm sure a lot of other people did, that the Giants really needed the sweep in DC to give them some wiggle room to in turn be swept by the Dodgers. The Dodgers lost 2 of 4 over the weekend in a 4-game wraparound series to the Rockies of all teams in Denver, losing the games Saturday and Sunday. And I thought for sure that they were just going to take out their frustrations on the Giants, come in Dodger Stadium North, pound the Giants into submission, and easily sweep them in 3 games. And that at some point in the 5th inning tonight, when it was going to be 14-2, that I was going to get a text by my buddy Dominic Iglesias, who's a Dodgers fan, saying, "Daddy has come home. Daddy's playing with his prey." Something to that effect to rub it in my face. But no, the Giants beat the Dodgers 3-1. Got to give it to Tony Vitello taking the bold step tonight of skipping Tyler Mahle, who was absolutely shellacked last week in Cincinnati, going with Landon Roop instead. And other than a bad start against the Mets on April 4th, Roop has been off to a great start this year. Came into tonight's game 2-1 with a 2.38 ERA. Tonight, 5 innings, did give up a run. And granted, he did walk 4. In the top of the 4th inning, walked in a run. It was looking like the game was truly about to get out of hand, but Roop was able to get Alex Call to ground into a 5-4-3 double play to end the inning, and that really kept the Giants on track. Roop was able to go 5 innings. Ryan Barucki, never thrilled when he comes into a game, but he pitched a scoreless top of the 6th. Matt Gage and Eric Miller combined for a scoreless top of the 7th. Miller and Keaton Wynn combined for a scoreless top of the 8th, though there was a little drama in that inning. And when Tony Vitello brought in Ryan Walker, I nearly lost it because we saw Walker blow the save in DC on Saturday, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs, this man can never close another major league game again. And 3 nights later, Tony goes to him to try and close out a 3-1 win over the Dodgers. He gets the first 2 out. Of course, Alex Call fouled off a pair of 2-strike pitches and worked the count full on the 8th pitch, a sinker on the outside corner just above the knees. He strikes him out swinging, and the Giants beat LA 3-1 in what was a massive win and what was a statement win. And I'll tell you why it was a statement win. Giants were up against Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who, of course, was last year's World Series MVP, had an historic performance in last year's World Series. And though it wasn't as good as Madison Bumgarner's performance in the 2014 World Series, in which he only gave up 1 run in 3 games, still pretty damn good nevertheless. San Fran Mike 81 says, Tony V, his style reminds me of Bochy tonight. Him going to Ryan Walker reminded me specifically of 2007 to 2011 Bochy. Thankfully for him, it paid off. But, Yamamoto, last year's World Series MVP, and the Giants get to him for 3 runs in the top of the 1st inning, getting to the defending World Series MVP for a big crooked number in the 1st inning. That's a statement. And that statement is, look, we may not be on your level, but we're not exactly the 1962 Mets. You're not going to come into our park and you're not going to roll over us. And the Giants did what, they've been built to do this year, which is they kept the line moving. Willie Adames, infield hit to short. I talk about line drives. How about some ground balls? How about legging out some infield hits? Luis Arias, base hit to left. Adames over to third. Chapman walks to load the bases. Devers lines a base hit to right. Casey Schmidt out on a sacrifice fly in which Alex Call had looked like a pretty nasty collision on that, though he lived to tell about it. Jung-Hoo Lee lines one to right that Kyle Tucker ends up trapping, and the Giants scored 3 runs. Unfortunately, that would be all the Giants would score, but still putting that big crooked number off last year's World Series MVP, that's pretty big. Speaking of Jung-Hoo Lee, a good night tonight, 2 for 3. He's definitely been swinging the bat much better. I want to discuss a play that actually ended his night. This came in the bottom of the 6th inning. And it was a play that, is pretty boneheaded on the surface, and I think ultimately was, but I really did love I did love what Hector Borg, the Giants' third base coach, was thinking here. So Jung-Hoo Lee extended what was looking to be a 1-2-3 inning with the base hit to right. Second of two hits, as I mentioned, he went 2 for 3. Elliot Ramos base hit to center. So Alex Call was taking forever to get the ball in, very nonchalantly. So Hector Borg thought he could catch him napping. So Lee gets to third. Lee, of course, has got a lot of speed, so he waves Lee in. But Alex Freeland, who took the nonchalant throw in from Call, caught it and threw a perfect strike home to get Lee by a mile to end the inning. And unfortunately, Lee looked like he may have hurt something as he was down on the ground. I think he came out of the game an inning later, but it was an unfortunate way to end his night. Unfortunately, Dalton Rushing, he was on video mouthing the words. He was on his way back to the dugout, looked back, and mouthed the words, fuck him. Really? Guy just got hurt. I get it. It's your hated rival, but the guy got hurt. Show some respect. But of course, I shouldn't be surprised because this is the same Dalton Rushing who, after Sunday's loss in Colorado, pretty much accused the Rockies of cheating. You'll have to take a look at this for yourself.
I think it could have been a little bit of both sides. I think they had a good game plan as an opposing team, and maybe I pitched into their game plan as far as calling pitches. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's odd some of those hitters that do what they do. They go up there and they were only the first pitch that was thrown. So it's fishy, but I think it could have been a little bit of both sides.
Really? It's called baseball. And in baseball, the two-time defending world champions can lose 2 in a row to the team that has lost 100 games each of the last 3 years, including 119 games last year. It's baseball. That happens. And between those two things, I've learned a lot about Dalton Rushing's character in just the last 48 plus hours. Absolutely classless. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he is 25. But if he's still, carrying himself this way, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, then I'll really have a massive dislike for him. But the guy hasn't even been in the big leagues for a full year, and he feels like he could go out and accuse a team of cheating. Yeah, I have no respect for that guy. None whatsoever. There's absolutely no reason to do that. Anyway, hopefully Jung-Hoo Lee's okay. I haven't heard any updates on Lee. If someone does have one, I would greatly appreciate it. So, going back to Tony V's, Tony's great move tonight, which was starting Landon Roop in place of Malley. Roop's been off to a great start this year. He's another guy on this team who seems to have some personality. Giants are showing a lot of emotion this year, which I like, which is absolutely a result of Tony's managing. And Tony's just fiery personality himself. Tony has definitely had his growing pains. Absolutely. But the players really like respecting him. When he got thrown out by David Rackley against the Mets on April 5th, over a call the umpiring crew got absolutely 100% right. It was, though, to fire up his team. Luis Arias, Rafael Devers, and Elliot Ramos all gave him pats on the ass. That's showing how much the players love playing for him. And Kyle Foster was here a minute ago, was telling me that the win last Thursday in Cincinnati, which was a very emotional win, ended with Eric Miller striking out Sal Stewart and screaming a bunch of expletives at him after the game ended. That may have been their coming out party there. This team has emotion. Ryan Walker showed some emotion tonight. And it's the emotion that's going to carry this team. What I love about bringing in Tony is in an era of baseball that is so bland, that is so sterile, that is so robotic, that is so corporate, he has a personality. He talked about the 1993 Phillies and the personalities they had. Now, of course, I don't think the Giants players are as nuts as, say, people like Lenny Dykstra, but these guys have some personalities. And the thing about the 93 Phillies is that, and John Kruk would talk about this, guys would stay after the game and drink beer into the training room well into the morning and just talk baseball. You don't have that in today's day. Uh, but the Giants are showing some emotion. And as I've said, like 10 years ago, I would have hated the Vitello move, but in an era where you have a bunch of managers who are basically taking orders from the front office mid game, Tony Vitello is a welcome change from all of that. And the thing is with Landon Roop, we haven't seen a lot of him, but right now he's throwing the ball well. And as I've mentioned before, with the Giants' lack of pitching, both in the rotation and bullpen, they're going to have to do whatever they can to get by. And you've got a young guy in Roop who the league hasn't exactly figured out yet. Now, whether the league will figure him out or not is a different story. But at least as of right now, before the league is able to figure him out, he can give you a good start every 5 days. And I feel bad for Tyler Mahle, but after Mahle's start Wednesday in Cincinnati, which was just an utter disaster. You had to skip him. And just really gutsy, ballsy managing from Tony Vitello tonight. And I really greatly appreciate him doing that. Just gutsy managing by Tony Vitello tonight. I was thinking about this over the last couple of days. You know who's one of my baseball heroes, though he's a true anti-hero? Very flawed man. I'm talking about one of the greatest strategic managers of all time, Billy Martin. Billy was a genius, a true baseball genius. But he was a very, very paranoid man, and of course, a drunk. But his paranoia is what at times made him great managers, but also caused him to self-destruct. What Billy would come in and do is get the best out of even the crappiest of teams for a year or two, and then everything would implode because he couldn't help himself. And Billy just had some, and I was thinking about this after Hector Borg tried to catch Alex Cole napping in center field and have Lee score on that. Billy Martin had some interesting things that he did. One of them, and this is something that both the nerds and the scouts can be of use for, is when you had runners at first and third and a lefty with a slow pickoff move. I mean, so the runner at first would get the lefty with the slow pickoff move to make a throw over, and once he committed, the runner at third, who I imagine many times with the A's was Ricky Anderson, would dash home. It's that kind of stuff. There is more than one way to play the game of baseball, kids. There is more than one way to play the game. And maybe Tony has some tricks like that up his sleeves. He's not anywhere near as nuts as Martin. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's going to have success and then have it crumble in on himself and then self-destruct. But Tony's different. That's what I like about him. Drew Gilbert is a throwback. He's different. Some of these guys, they let their hair grow out. They show some personality. You got Willie Adames throwing the Powerade or whatever it is he's throwing on the players after games. Ryan Walker seemed to appreciate that after the game. He's making that a thing. Whenever the Giants win, whoever's getting the interview on Postgame Live on NBC Sports Area gets the yellow Powerade showers. I think that's Powerade that they're throwing on him. It's a tragedy what happened to Billy. It's a real tragedy. He was a brilliant man, but just very rough upbringing. Grew up in West Berkeley. faced a lot of adversity, was far from the greatest ball player, couldn't really hit, couldn't field, couldn't run, but he just played the game a different way. And of course, he was Casey Stengel's protege. Casey loved him, and he won 5 World Series rings. It was actually interesting. I was watching the Sports Century documentary about Billy that came out in 2001, just a couple of days ago. And, or no, actually, I was watching it yesterday. And he was traded, and the Yankees ownership wanted to get rid of him for years because he was a bad influence on guys like Mickey Mantle. And so there was, in May of 1957, Mantle or whoever, Billy and a bunch of guys went out drinking that night. And some of them got into a fight, which actually Billy had nothing to do with, but the Yankees saw that as a pretext to get rid of Billy. Casey had to give Billy the news, and Casey was basically like Billy's father. I don't think Billy grew up with his father. His mom was a very rough around the edges person. Michael Zagaris had a funny story on the MLB Network documentary about Billy that came out in 2017, where I think it was She Goes to Zagaris, longtime photographer for the A's and also followed a lot of rock bands on tour, where he says, "Where's Billy?" And Michael, I don't remember what he said. He's like, well, tell that cocksucker his mom's here to see him. And actually, I had found out in the Sports Century documentary that she had died just, I think, about 2 weeks or so before he infamously killed himself on Christmas in 1989. And I do think Billy was the driver. Of course, a very fitting way for Billy to go out doing something stupid like that. He was going to get a 6th chance to manage the Yankees, and really one of my baseball heroes. What was a touching story was Billy's kid at the funeral was just, having a hard time. And Richard Nixon, there are pictures of this. Richard Nixon, of all people, was at Billy Martin's funeral. And he goes up to Billy Jr. and he says, I want you to come out. I want you to come outside and see how many people loved your father. And Yankees fans, as far as the eye could see outside the church, were there. And, what if Billy had lived? What if Billy managed into the 90s? It's actually interesting. 1990 was the year that, George Steinbrenner was caught for his sleazy actions in regards to Dave Winfield. See how a different Yankees owner, especially because the Yankees were going on a rebuild in the 90s. Of course, if it wasn't for George's ouster, you wouldn't, they would have traded away guys like Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter. It's interesting to see how I have a hard time believing they would have had Billy manage, but you never know. But very flawed man, and it is a crime. It is an utter absolute crime that he is not in the Hall of Fame. And I hope he does get there someday, because he is a true Hall of Famer and easily one of the top 5 greatest strategic managers in the history of baseball. And Tony La Russa, who I was talking about earlier, he learned a lot from Billy. It's a shame, and I just hope Billy does go to the Hall of Fame. I want to talk about something before I go, because even on a great night like tonight where the Giants win, I have to complain about something. ABS. We saw Max Muncy have a pitch that missed by less than 1/10 of an inch be overturned from a ball to a strike. Oh my God, I hate that. Oh my God, it's a hittable pitch. It's a hittable pitch. It's a strike. Sit down. Anyway, now they're saying, well, the umpires don't like being corrected. Maybe we should do full ABS. Yeah, we tried that. And games this year are now longer than they've been the last 3. Now, granted, this is a small sample size. We are just under a month of the way into the season, but it's definitely worth talking about. Game times this year are up to 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it's not because of the challenges. You're probably seeing about 4 to 5 challenges per game. That's an extra, 50 seconds. It's because you're having more balls called. You're having less strikes called. And with the more uniform strike zone, that leads to longer games. And if you go full ABS, which I watched in 2022 and 2023 while covering Rivercats games those 2 seasons, it's frankly unwatchable. And that was unwatchable, and it would make the games even longer. So not only are games longer this year, which I said would happen, we have had a big spike in walks this year. We are averaging 7.46 walks per game, by far the most since 2000. Yeah, because less strikes are being called. Those 2 things, longer games, more walks, are precisely what I said would happen with ABS. And looking at the call to Max Muncy, it is why, and I will continue to maintain this, that you need a 2-inch buffer zone on all sides of the plate. It is so reasonable. It's the most reasonable compromise in the history of compromises. And because we all heard Anthony Rizzo on the pregame for the Netflix season opener, can't believe that was almost a month ago, saying, "Oh, with ABS now, guys don't have to protect with 2 strikes anymore." Because the guy's an idiot who has no feel for the game. Really? It's just that just really pisses me off when guys say that, because you do need to protect with 2 strikes. You can't just rely on ABS to bail you out. And if you have a 2-inch buffer zone with pitches that are up to 2 inches off the plate, potentially being called strikes, which by the way are very hittable, you can't rely on ABS to bail you out. You got to protect. And when you have to protect, you're more likely to put the ball in play. Oh my God, God forbid that happens. A guy lines a base hit the other way, or even worse, hits a slow ground ball and legs one out. I know that Rob Manfred, that really scares him. But I got news for you. It's better baseball. Fans don't like watching guys take those clownish, what they call HLP swings, where they do this with the barrel and swing up and whiff and miss at everything. People don't enjoy that. And the worst part about what's happening this year is the collective batting average in Major League Baseball is 239. This makes me, I'm sorry. I said I had to complain about something tonight. And a 2-inch buffer zone is such a reasonable compromise. Come on. A 2-inch buffer zone. It's so simple. All they have to do is have a 2-inch buffer zone, all sides of the plate, and an option, if both managers agree, to extend it up to 4 inches, blowouts, early season getaway game on a cold afternoon in Detroit or South Side or Chicago, period. Or Cleveland, where it's going to be or Minneapolis, where it's going to be 30 degrees. Or, summertime, if you're trying to get out of somewhere on the East Coast, like Miami or Tampa or Atlanta, or like the Giants were in DC 2 years ago before a hurricane or a tropical storm. A 2-inch buffer zone maintains the art of calling balls and strikes, which in turn leads to better baseball. And that is what makes the game good. Watching guys constantly try and barrel dump and swing for the fences on everything, that's not entertaining. And, Jeff Fry will talk about it every night. you will see a mental miscue. You know, it's just, and even tonight with Jung-Hoo Lee trying to score again, I love what Hector Borg is thinking, but I love what Hector Borg is thinking, but it's like when you try and pull something like that off, you better be damn sure you can do it. And you better be damn sure you can do that. And unfortunately, it just didn't work because it's something that's in your bag of tricks. And if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work, and you gave the game away. And by game away, I don't mean tonight's game. I mean like the game as in your trick away. You gave your trick away. I'm going to keep talking about all this, and hopefully the batting average will get up. Hopefully those walks will go down. What's interesting, home runs have been down, which again, I'm not opposed to home runs. I'm opposed to nothing but home runs, so we'll take that as a positive. We'll take a look at some of these miscellaneous stats on baseballreference.com before we wrap things up here. And as you can see, 2 hours and 45 minutes. The average game was 2 hours and 42 minutes in 2023, 2 hours and 38 minutes in 2024, and 2 hours and 40 minutes last year. So a 5-minute gain, 5 games are 5 minutes longer than they were last year. And that would mean you would have to have 30 challenges a game for that to be because of ABS. Or because to have it be because of the ABS challenges. No, it's not because of the ABS challenges. It's because of ABS and the fact that we're getting more ball calls and less strike calls, a problem that will only be exacerbated if we go to full ABS. And the way they're doing ABS too, it's 2 dimensions, and the plate is 17 inches, 8.5 inches, and then when it does the home roof shape, it's 12 inches on those sides. So the 8.5 inch point on the halfway point there, it's 2-dimensional. So that makes it so that even more balls are going to be called. And it used to be, like bottom of the knees and then the midpoint between the waist and the shoulders. I personally like going up to the letters. Now it's 27 point something percent of your body's height at the knees and 53 point something percent of your body's height at the top. If I'm a player, I'm just gonna go there just to mess with it. I'll do like the Tim Salmon, Jeff Bagwell crouch, just to mess with it, just to be defiant. Just to be defiant about it. Have it be 3-dimensional. And just have a 2-inch buffer zone. It is the most reasonable compromise in the world. Look, the technology is here. It's not going away. It's here to stay. I get that. But the problem is we as a society are too anal. And baseball, my dad and I have both always said this, baseball follows regular life here in America. Baseball's become too anal. There's no reason for anything, especially baseball, to be this anal. Use the technology. 2-inch buffer zone, which can go up to 4 inches in certain situations, where all calls are upheld. And on replays, a minute tops, maybe even 30 seconds. Okay, you don't need to go frame by frame by frame by frame, zoom in a gazillion times to see if he got the guy by a gazillionth of an inch. 30 seconds to maybe a minute tops. And if you can't find any clear and convincing evidence to overturn the call, just uphold it and play ball. Okay, things like ABS and replay should be there to correct the really, really egregious calls. The calls where it's blatantly obvious. The calls where, overturn it. The guy's safe, or the guy's out, or the pitch wasn't a strike, or the pitch was a strike. That's what ABS and replay should be used for. All right. I got to wrap this baby up. Tomorrow night, Giants and Dodgers will be right back at it, 6:45. Tyler Mahle will get the start tomorrow. 0-3 with a 7.23 ERA. He's up against Shohei, who'll be pitching for the Dodgers. Oh, yeah, let's talk about Shohei, because Shohei has that special rule that he gets as much time as he wants after he hits to come out, or he gets, or not as much time as he wants, or he gets extra time or whatever. That was a big controversy in Game 7 of the World Series last year. Here's the thing. Through 2021, when pitchers used to hit, they didn't get that extra time. So why should Shohei? No, just because Shohei, the guy may be the greatest player who ever lived. I'm not dissing what he's done. He's a great player. But that doesn't mean he gets special privileges. And some people are saying Shohei's better than Babe Ruth. I'm not sure I'm ready to go there yet. I've talked about, because of the fact that you have a lot of poor people who are locked out of the game just because it's so expensive to play, that you don't have the greatest talent pool. As a result of that, you, of course, didn't have the greatest talent pool back in the days of Ruth, because African Americans were not allowed in the game. And so, if Babe Ruth had to face, some of the best of the Negro Leagues, he may not have been, if he had to face some of those guys, he may not have had the same career that he had. If people like Joe DiMaggio and Lou Gehrig had to face Negro League pitching, they may not have had the careers they had. Ted Williams faced some, but there has not been a single 400 season by a hitter since integration into the game. The last 400 season was, of course, Ted Williams in 1941, when African Americans were not allowed in our great game. So those are my thoughts and my musings for tonight. This has been a production of Sports Radio Service. My thoughts and language do not reflect those of Sports Radio Service, my boss, Lee Leonard, or their advertisers and sponsors. For Lee, I'm Stephen Ruderman. I hope you enjoyed my mumblings and musings tonight. Giants beat LA. Love to take 2 out of 3. Hell, I'd love them to even see if they can pull a sweep, but you know what? They're not getting swept. They're at worst going to be 5 under if they lose the next 2 games, so I can sleep easy tonight. Have a good night, folks. We'll talk to you soon.